This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. All right, we're here for week 2 preseason winners and losers. And remember, it's the preseason. We're going to take these with a grain of salt, whether they're positive or negative. Can't take it too much going either way. But we're just discussing what we're viewing and what I think is positive for these players and what I don't think is that positive for these players. And we're going to give a highlight to those players that I thought played well and a highlight to those players I thought played especially bad. We're going to start with DTR, who I thought was a winner in this game. Now, this wasn't his best outing. I thought it was pretty up and down. I talked about it in my video after the game about how he has issues kind of when he gets blitzed and he's not making great decisions there and how that would keep me out of playing him in the game. But he's played himself above what I feel like Tyler Huntley's been doing. And we'll talk about Tyler Huntley in a little bit, which to me, I think it's a win for DTR because I did not anticipate that being the case after watching what he did in the regular season in 2023 again. So that's a good sign for DTR. Still a lot to improve, still a lot for him to get better at. But as far as from what we saw right now, not terrible. Jamari Thrash, I'm very encouraged with what we've seen from Jamari Thrash in the last 2 games. Seems like a player who can get separation, can get open, right? Consistently getting open. Now, again, it's not against the best competition in the world. We're not going to know what he looks like in that till like maybe later in the season if there's some injuries at wide receiver and he does have to play. But he does seem like he can get open. He's getting separation. He's making plays. He's catching the football. All of these things that you want to see a wide receiver do, he's doing well. What does that mean for how far he takes this? I don't know. But it's a good sign from a young player, and it seems like you're probably going to get that 5th round value out of Jamari Thrash at the very least. Another winner is somebody that's not even on the Cleveland Browns. It's somebody who's waiting to get a free draft pick for their 3rd left tackle on their depth chart because they happened to struck and had enough backup tackles to get a free pick. Because the Browns are going to have to trade for a tackle if the injuries to Jermaine Ifedi or Hakeem Adeniji are serious enough to where they would have to miss a game. Because let me tell you something. If Jed Wills is not back for that preseason game, there is no shot that I am putting Deshaun Watson on an offensive line with a 4th-string left tackle. Because James Hudson could be hurt, not play. And he's not even a backup. He's the 3rd-string guy. And then it seems like Jermaine Ifedi is the backup, the actual backup to Jed Wills. Seems like he could not play in that game. And then the 3rd backup, Hakeem Adeniji, he might not be in there. Ain't no way we going 4th-string with Deshaun Watson out there. Absolutely will not happen. So somebody's going to get a free 7th or 6th round pick for a tackle that the Browns will likely cut. Because their only purpose is to make sure that they have something there to protect Deshaun Watson in this 1 quarter of preseason that he's going to play. So somebody's going to get a free draft pick. Congratulations to you. You are a winner there. D'Onta Foreman, I thought was a winner in this game. Had a couple of nice plays. I thought he consistently got positive yards on 1st down when asked to run the ball in obvious run situations, something that the Browns struggled at. I feel better about the run game after seeing D'Onta Foreman out there, and it was just nice to see him back out there, especially since he had that serious injury. Had that nice big play on I think it was a screen play, or maybe it was in the flat. When he got the ball thrown to him, he made a nice play. We saw that burst that he could bring to the table. I like D'Onta Foreman. I saw enough from him to be encouraged about him, and I feel pretty good about him being in that rotation with Jerome Ford and whomever else may be in it if Nick Chubb cannot play week 1. Zaire Mitchell-Payton is another one that I'm going to add to the winner pile. Thought he's put together a strong preseason. Now, he did get injured in this game. I don't know how seriously he got injured. Sounds like he jogged off, but he's put together a nice camp. and a nice preseason. If the Browns keep a third tight end, it would make the most sense to have Zaire Mitchell-Payton be that third tight end, and I would feel pretty fine with that being the case because he's played up to that level. Nick Harris is another guy that I'm putting in the winners category. Offensive line in this game looks much better than it looked last week. From an operations standpoint, from a comfort standpoint, and just from a protection standpoint. Even if you're just comparing how they looked in the third and fourth quarter last week to how they looked in this game, I think they looked a lot better. So I like that. I think Nick Harris has a ton to do with that because Nick Harris was holding it down at that center position. So it was nice to see him back in the Browns uniform, playing center. Just a really nice, reliable backup center you can feel good about, and somebody who can kind of play guard too. So really like what Nick Harris brings to the table there. Thought he had a nice game. Javion Cohen, I thought he had a nice game in some parts. He was really doing well when he got some advantageous situations and run blocking situations. Had some moments where he would not want to speak about again, right? Like, so it was an up and down day for him, but I think Nick Harris probably played the best out of everybody on that offensive line. We'll see. Aiden Robbins, I thought he had a nice game in this one. He didn't really get going until the fourth quarter. Now, again, that's sometimes can be a red flag, right? Because the fourth quarter, that's the worst players that are going to play in the preseason are in the fourth quarter. But I thought there was a level of comfort he got once he knew he was getting like 6, 7, 8 carries in a drive. And you saw that burst that people talk about with Aiden Robbins in there. And I was like, yeah, that's a much more intriguing running back to me than like a Pierre Strong is. So Aiden Robbins, I thought he had a nice game in this one, especially towards the end. Early in this game, it seemed like he was having trouble finding his footing. Like literally, he would just put his head down and not make a cut when there were obvious cuts there. So maybe Deuce Staley said something to get him calmed down a little bit. But once he got calmed down and settled into the game, he looked a lot better, had a nice run where he just ran somebody over. I liked what I saw from Aiden. If he runs like that in week 3 of the preseason, he might have a chance to make the practice squad, or even like, I don't know, it's going to be hard to make the 53, but he might have a chance to make the practice squad. Chris Williams, I think he made a solid argument today for making the practice squad. Had 2 sacks, resulted 1 in a safety. I think he's been probably the best 4th string defensive lineman that the Browns have thrown out there. And again, I think there's an argument for him to be the practice squad guy. Also, I've seen him play inside. I've seen him play on the outside. So a little bit of inside-outside versatility for Chris Williams makes him a lot better. And in general, I'm going to put the defensive line this week on the winners list. They were able to get much more pressure than they got last week. They seemed like they were bothering them. Now, part of that was that Jim Schwartz decided to blitz. And he decided to throw different blitzes at the Vikings. And not all of those blitzes got home as fast as you would want them to, but they got home. They were able to get pressure. I thought Mike Hall was getting pressure pretty consistently in this game. Isaiah McGuire and Isaiah Thomas were getting pressure pretty consistently in this game. Most of the Browns defensive line would end up on the winners list. There's one player who I don't think is going to be on the winner list, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And then I thought Khalif Alisi had a nice bounce back game. Did not think he played great in the last game that we saw Khalif Alisi in, but I thought this was a much better outing from Khalif Alisi, so I like to see that. All right, let's get to the losers. I thought Snoop Huntley had moments in this game where he justified being that third quarterback. And then he had moments in this game where I remembered exactly what the Snoop Huntley experience is like. And the Snoop Huntley experience is like PJ Walker plus. And we might just end up bringing back PJ Walker. And this goes back to something I said about DTR. I don't think DTR should play. And if you end up getting down to your third quarterback and you need a third quarterback for a game, you're probably going to go to Snoop because Snoop is more equipped to play in a game right now than DTR is. That doesn't mean that Snoop is better, but it just means he's more equipped to play in the game right now. That being said, I'm starting to question that. It's not a good thing because the answer isn't, hey, let's play DTR as a third quarterback if it comes down to it. The answer is maybe we should go get PJ Walker if he gets cut again, because I don't know. I wasn't loving what Snoop was doing here. Like, he had some plays where he improvised and he ran. He looked very impressive doing that. But the interceptions he threw were so bad in this game. And look, DTR had a interception where he was slightly behind over the middle and it bounced and ricocheted. And that's not the best interception in the world, but it's not a terrible interception. Snoop had an interception where he just like overthrew it out straight into the corner. Don't love that. And then the other interception, I believe it was even worse. It was on like mesh. And he just panicked and threw the ball into the middle of the field. Don't love that, right? And that's stuff that I'm like, I don't even think PJ Walker would do that. Now, he's a better athlete than PJ. He's probably a better player overall than PJ. But this was a bad showing by Snoop Huntley. So, maybe I had to go and ask my Baltimore people if Snoop is just a bad preseason player and he looks better when you put him in a regular season game, because I just have not been impressed with what I've seen from him. And I thought I would see a lot more. I thought I'd be more impressed with what I saw of him in this game than I was. Pierre Strong, I'm at the point where I don't need to see anymore. He can't put his foot in the ground and plant consistently. He can do it every once in a while, but he can't do it consistently. The contact balance is abysmal. Like, yes, there's burst. Yes, there's athleticism there. Like, yet there are times where Pierre Strong looks like a third round draft pick. And there are other times where you could see why Pierre Strong fell to the third round. And I'm just over the Pierre Strong experience. It's kind of like a worse version of the Jerome Ford experience, right? If you run Jerome Ford a lot, you're going to realize he's going to be at the top of the league in zero gain runs, but he's also going to get a lot of big plays. That's the same thing with Pierre Strong, but at a much lower level. I'm over it. I would rather you give a chance to Aiden Robbins than give a chance to continue to put Pierre Strong out there. So don't love Pierre Strong there. Thought he probably had the worst showing of all the running backs, and he's had the worst showing of all the running backs in the preseason. Siaki Ika, I feel like I'm picking on him. Bad game again. The Browns' run defense for the defensive line was pretty bad, and it was pretty much him. That was the reason they were running at him. And he's 350 pounds, man. How are you at the point to where they're running at you? I don't know. It's not good. And sometimes I think the problem with Siaki Ika, and honestly, this is a problem with preseason football, but the problem with Siaki Ika is he's not really aware of where the ball is a lot of the times. So, like, he'll be holding up a double team, and he'll be doing a good job of that. But since he's not aware of where the ball is, it doesn't matter, because they can just run in whatever gap he's not in, and he doesn't do anything to try to shed and get there and fill that gap. Like, he doesn't get a hand, nothing. So I like, the awareness seems bad. He's not long enough to be that unaware. He's not athletic enough to be that unaware. He's everything that people were worried about him coming out of Baylor, including myself. I was very vocal about not being a fan of Siaki coming out the draft. I've seen nothing that has made me feel like I should even consider changing my mind on that. And even when I do try to go in with the open mindset, I end up feeling even worse about how Siaki Ika has played. I don't think the Browns have a plan for him. I don't think he's going to make the 53. And again, I would pay so much money to figure out what went into making that draft pick, because it seems like they immediately decided they didn't want him. I don't get it. Like, Andrew Berry usually does a really good job of having a plan for every draft pick. This is one of those ones where it just didn't happen. Interested to know why. Maybe like Perion Winfrey getting cut and arrested really threw off their plan for defensive tackle, and they were scrambling, so they just drafted Ika. But something happened that resulted in them drafting Ika, and they clearly don't love that decision being made, because they have signed, re-signed, and brought in 3 defensive tackles since they drafted Siaki Ika, and they've drafted 2 defensive tackles since they brought in Siaki Ika. It's not something you do when you feel good about a third-round pick. Devin Bush, I thought he was he played well last week. This was not a good example of Devin Bush. This was kind of what Devin Bush looked like in Seattle. Not a big fan. Miles Harden, bit too thirsty to make a play in this game, and it bit him in the ass a couple of times here. So Miles, I just don't think he had a great game here. Thought Khalif outplayed him, and he's kind of battling with Khalif Elisi for that last corner spot. So not a great day for Miles Harden, but he'll bounce back. He's had a good camp. Those are my winners and losers for week 2. So that's it for the Browns not playing starters or not playing anybody of note in the preseason. Strap in, because this week the Browns are playing starters in the preseason. Deshaun Watson is going to play, which means you're going to play some significant starters. You're going to get a dress rehearsal for this team. So snap in, get in, lock in. This is where you're going to learn. This is going to be the week where you learn the most about what this Cleveland Browns team is actually going to look like going into the season. But we'll see. Again, this has been one of the off seasons where I've seen them play it the safest I've ever seen the Browns play it, especially Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski. And it's not like they're known for risking in this part of the season, but they've been playing it pretty safe. So we'll really learn a lot about this team after this preseason game. And remember, even though it's at 10 o'clock Eastern time, I will be live. So make sure you're subscribed and notified so you don't miss a thing. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.